Hey everybody, it's A Dog's Life with Angela Ardolino, and I have brought back one of my guests because, of course, we ran out of time and we didn't even get to talk about horses. And today we want to talk about horses. I'm sure lovers will hate me if I go because they're big dogs, but I really do feel like they're big dogs. That's what's the only reason that's kept me from getting horses because they scare the heck out of me. I gotta do feel like I have to, taking my Doberman to a vet is easy. What the hell do I do with a 300-pound animal? So anyway, hello, Dr. Sarah Urban. Thank you for joining me again on It's a Dog's Life. How you doing?
Hey, doing okay. It's freezing up here in Pennsylvania. We are having like 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, so good excuse for me to come down to Florida soon.
Oh, yes, you should. It's actually really cold today, but it's already warming up and it's beautiful. So, yeah, we went from like 75 to today, I think is like 65. It was like a crazy little cold snap, which that's all that happens between January and February.
Yeah. Are there iguanas falling out of the trees or
Not
no?
yet, not
Not
yet.
yet.
It's raining flamingos. Um, so horses.
Yes.
So like when the weather gets cold, these are the things that go through my head. When the weather gets cold, do horses like are they like people where all of a sudden they're like, weather's gonna change. My joints are hurting and getting creaky. I
They
feel like they do.
they definitely do. We see numerous things go on with weather changes with it dropping with horses. So definitely, if they have arthritis, I find it can flare up. Any kind of joint, issue. A lot of times, unfortunately, these horses are in their stalls all day. So unlike our dogs who can get up and move around, they're in a warmer environment. They possibly could be stuck in a 12 by 12 stall and not move around to keep their joints, loose and keeping that mobility. So it does become an issue. There's a host of other things, colic is a big thing with the weather changing. But I mean, they do keep warm. They are organized and put together, so we don't have to worry about bundling them up too much. But yeah, with the cold, it's one of the concerns. Usually, I'm getting more calls for chiropractic or acupuncture for them in the winter.
Right. I just feel like the way horses are built, what they go through, I feel like there's a lot more anxiety. I A horse's anxiety scares me more than a dog's anxiety, especially if you're riding that horse.
Mm.
Or you're working with the horse. Am I right by saying that? I mean, I feel like a scared horse can cause a lot more damage than a scared dog can.
They can, and I think it's one of those things. If you're a very in tune dog owner, you can start reading body language.
Right.
So horses, if you know your personal horse or maybe some of the other horses that you're working with, you start reading that body language. They tense up just like dogs do. They can have they'll start looking at things, snorting. You can just feel their whole energy can change when it comes to anxiety. But I mean, they definitely can explode, just like a dog can all of a sudden spin around and you're like, what are you doing? The horses can do that too. And horses are more of a prey animal. So they can be more flighty over things that a dog wouldn't necessarily get rattled by.
Oh, wow. And what about PTSD? Because I feel like dogs kind of get over stuff, but horses don't get over stuff. And I mean, a full spectrum hemp extract CBD is amazing for that. So I feel like it would really help horses with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it. I where I live in Pennsylvania is close to a lot of horse sales that are going to be going to slaughter for whatever reason, and
Oh,
so we see a lot of horses dumped with issues, either abuse, neglect, some other horrific type things. So that's where it's definitely going to be nice in this area. I even think a lot of the rescues, if they can utilize some CBD oil, while they're trying to retrain and getting the new neuron synapses to start happening in the brain and in the nervous system, if they can be in a calm, relaxed state, then we can kind of retrain them. So I always talk to owners, people can be so quick, they want drugs for their dogs and anxiety. It's a little bit harder to do with horses because they become unsafe.
Right.
But if we can utilize the CBD, get that on board, that allows for correct new behaviors. We kind of talk about the brain can reform these new connections that are good. So
Right.
neuroplasticity. So that's what I love.
I do too. And that's what, kept me from launching a horse product right from the beginning is that understanding their anxiety and stress, understanding that when they do become calm, what does that mean? Does it work the same as, and it does beautifully. And, the people that were willing to try it on their horses that they couldn't ride because they get so spooked over every little thing, that were willing to try it and keep finding, because as just like dogs, you got to find the dose. You got to
Yep.
find what dose, because every animal, no matter what it is, has its own dose, and you've got to figure that out. So, them figuring it out as they get up on that horse and ride it through, the scary part,
Yeah.
and it works well. And it's not because it's a full spectrum hemp extract and it only has that 0.3% THC, it doesn't make them psychoactive. It just calms them down. And, I really believe in that over time, just like you said, those synapses, you ride the horse and you ride them again and again and again, and that fear is gone because you've conquered it. You've conquered it with the help of CBD and, by riding the horse.
Mhm.
The other interesting thing is that, one of the ways that animals make their own endocannabinoids is a lot by running and playing and being outside. So a horse that's kept in a stall, we talk about dogs not getting enough exercise. I'm sure horses being anxious and locked up and not getting enough exercise, and therefore not, producing their own endocannabinoids. Again, they're such good
Mhm.
candidates for it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we see a little bit in the dog world, but I feel like in the horse world, with the horse showing, that we see, they're traveling the country, they're going from show to show, and we forget that this is more of a herd animal, and they're prey. So trying to treat them as a wind up toy, they can withstand the stresses for a little while, but then the system's going to start breaking down, and then we're going to have to be doing joint injections, or we're dealing with colics, or we're having to dope them. And these are the horses, unfortunately, we start seeing being in the throwaway society. If you look at, like, over in Europe, how they train, they're not getting on or touching these horses till 5 or 6. They're
Wow.
out in the field, they get to be horses. Some of their longevity is longer. These horses are living outside, but they're Grand Prix show jumpers or they're dressage riders. There's such a push to get these horses to mature and perform at a really high level. Um, I talk to a lot of my clients, just simple things: feed your horses on the ground. Horses aren't meant to be fed up. That's a fight and flight. You're initiating. You're not going to be eating a hamburger or eating grain, running away from a predator. So up
Right.
here is fight and flight. Feed your horses on the ground, and then it's the perfect. You mix in the CBD oil with that. Um, Open stall gates, get rid of the sliding back and forth stall gates, get grills so they don't have to keep lifting their head up and down when they're eating. And that's just going to stimulate that rest and digest. But so simple things we can do that cost barely anything, we can really help these guys' lives out.
And you mentioned putting the CBD in the feed instead of putting it directly in the mouth. Have you done both
Yeah,
ways? And do you like
yeah,
one way more than
yeah.
the
I
other?
like it directly in the mouth, but a lot of some of the rescue ones, if we can't even get near, sometimes getting in the food. I personally, once they know what it is, some horses, whatever reason, I think because they're just more plant driven, are going for it.
Yeah.
Some are so mistrusting of everything that it sounds bad, but you're just happy that they're in a stall and they're not running around in a crowd, and you're just trying to be around them and
Right.
desensitize them. So anything that we can get into them is helpful.
Cool. Because I noticed that they are definitely, I remember that the first time that I gave it to a bunny,
Hmm.
And I thought, it's a plant. Maybe he'll like it, and literally smelled it and then started licking it out of the bottle. And I'm like, yes. And I
Yeah.
found with horses is, putting it on my hand and letting them smell, or the owner putting it on their hand and letting them smell it first, and then them licking it off. And then after that, it being a lot easier for
Yeah.
them. Is that how you would introduce it
Yeah,
to them?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of interesting in the fall here in Lancaster area. We have so many more hemp farmers, and so when they go and they harvest, it smells rather nice here in Lancaster. So
Nice.
there, definitely you'll see some of the Amish plow horses. They'll be out there in the field, and I just wonder, if they edge towards that and want to try to eat some. And I have to
Heck
start
yeah.
talking to some of the farmers. Yeah.
Heck yeah, and how they can benefit from CBD a lot like our dogs can. But it's funny how, their problems may be a little bit more major because they're such big animals and they need so much care. And, you got to think about those things. But hemp seed oil, I just want to talk about for a minute, because hemp seed oil is so wonderful for horses also. So, and our tinctures, our horse tinctures, of course, we add hemp seed oil into all of them because I'm such a big fan. But, it's even better than flaxseed, which isn't flaxseed a really popular feed for horses?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely, we see flaxseed in everything. A lot of the major supplement companies, their base is going to be flaxseed. I can't think, there is a team of sisters. They just came out with a hemp line of food. So their base is going to be hemp, and then they're doing a lot more supplements because they're
See,
finding the
very
horses
smart.
are responding better. So they're starting to a little bit of some of the different racetracks, and the trainers are picking their food up, and they're doing phenomenal.
Mhm.
Um, so I'll have to figure out. My friend just sent me and said, "Hey, you got to connect with these gals. I think they're sisters, nutritionists, and they're
Oh,
just
I'd love to have them on the show
yeah,
also.
yeah,
It makes so much sense because, they eat plants,
mm,
they eat hay. So to me, it makes a lot more sense. What were your experiences with giving it to them orally versus feeding it to them? Like, how long did it take, and what was the situation? Was it arthritis or
yeah."
anxiety? And were you able to see how long it took?
I usually within, some of the arthritic kiddos that I worked on, they don't move that well, but I would give it orally. They did pretty well. And I would say probably by that evening I could notice they're moving around more. We would go out and, where's Gus? Oh, he's all the way down the hill. And then it was always one of these things, oh geez, he's got to come up the hill. And he was able to hobble. I'm pretty much, he had arthritis in every single leg, but he would hobble back up to the hill with the other kiddos. And orally, it took a little while, and it's hit or miss because horses are sloppy, sometimes sloppy eaters. They can be like people. They can separate their food out. They'll eat everything, or they'll like thrash their food out of the bowl. So it varied. But at least if I was trying to get it in for behavioral purposes, at least the calming effect, just, them being able to relax and take a breath and a breather in their stall was helpful.
I love it. There's nothing worse than like at our boarding facility where there's a big dog or even any type of dog staying there in a kennel and is anxious as heck, and giving them CBD so that they can just relax. I mean, I can't even imagine, what horses go through. I forgot what I was going to say of something you just mentioned. Don't remember, totally gone. I think that it's it's something that horses need so much. I think that putting it in their food is great, but as you know, it's not as effective. And it's not cost effective either. So getting it in their mouth is the best way. But that's one of the reasons that we have it in a bottle, because I figured if they've got a favorite treat or you've got something that they will eat, that's the easiest way to get it on there and then have them eat it. Very rare have I had someone not eat a treat because it was on it. It doesn't smell bad. It smells like cannabis,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
smells like hemp seed oil, it just smells like an oil. So it's not like the horse is going to freak out.
Mm-mm.
And we also didn't add on our tinctures any artificial flavors, which I know are big on horses,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just didn't want to put anything artificial in there that's going to mess up the medicine.
Mhm.
How do you think, have you had any opportunities to use it with lameness?
I have, if it's as long as it's not a major big mechanical issue, something like in the hoof, like if you have a full-blown abscess, that's kind of like almost having a corn on your foot, like it's going to be
Right.
a constant. Um, but just some basic general lameness where I have inflammation, it has been helpful. And just using it in conjunction, because we have to worry about long-term use of bute and Banamine. They can cause ulceration in the stomach. We can see rupture of some of the colon.
So
Um,
what is that, drugs for?
yeah, like bute and Banamine. So these are NSAIDs that we use in horses. And
Yeah,
so
long-term uses of NSAIDs for anybody is bad.
anybody is bad. And most horses, if they're in the performance arena, I've seen upwards like 80-90% of them have stomach ulcers to begin with. And now if they're getting occasional NSAIDs, you are just throwing more kerosene on that
So
fire.
you're the second person who said this to me. So I've Julianne Lee told
Mhm.
me that same thing. I think she said 90%
Yeah,
of
it's
rescue
high.
horses have stomach ulcers.
Yep.
And she told me this after I saved my first donkey with my dog tincture.
Mhm.
My neighbor's donkey was uh, had colic and was about to be put down by the vet, and he happened to call me up, call the crazy cannabis animal lady next door, and we ran over there and we put the heel tincture 3 dropperfuls on his gums, hopped up. I'd say about an hour later, had a bowel movement and still running around next door to this day. So of course I, followed up with every horse person I knew, and I remember that's when Julie told me that, is that she said that most of the time it's stomach ulcers. So
Mhm.
what the heck is giving these, which of course CBD is going to be great. A full spectrum hemp extract is going to be
Yeah.
great for that. But why are these horses all getting it? Is this stress induced?
Yeah.
I feel like
So,
they are so stressed out. I
yeah.
think relate with them because they're so stressed out, and CBD is going to help them.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
their heart rates go up so quickly, their cortisol levels. When this happens to a young horse over and over and over again, it takes effect on their health.
Yeah. And then you wonder why all these horses have Cushing's and stuff. But um yeah, I mean it's a combo. So the stress is going to drive that. And then you're also on top of like upper cervical, subluxations. So, your vagus nerve is huge. Your cranial nerve vagus helps run, basically helping you secrete bicarb and protective slime layer in your stomach. So if you have a subluxation, you're not going to have that signal to be, hey, rest and digest. I need to digest my food.
Got it.
So here we go. Horses are stalled more. They're not out grazing. They're not out running around. They're going to get subluxations. They're eating at a hay rack. They're eating out of a high food thing. That's not where their necks naturally are. They should be able to go down and like bring their head in between their legs, bring it back up. They can't do that.
Right.
So between the stress of everything and then you get that subluxation, now we're going to dump a bunch of meds on. It's the perfect storm.
So would you say it's a lot like how it is in dog health, where it just is a medication is prescribed, which causes this side
Mhm.
effect, and then just keeps going and going and going?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's definitely something I think when you're more of an integrative practitioner, it's sort of like pounding your head in sand. I feel every day because I know I can help this animal by changing diet, adding CBD on board, changing, how the, owners are handling them. Just there's simple things. It doesn't have to become super expensive.
Right.
It's just,
And
you know.
being proactive and preventative
Yeah.
is what prevents it from being
Mhm.
that way. And real food and real whole plant medicine are natural things that are only going to help and not harm them at all.
Yep.
I want to talk, we're going to have to go to on a break, but I want to talk about um, topicals and skin issues,
Mhm.
because I know any animal that's out there outside most of the time is going to, fall victim to the sun and bug bites and everything else. So we're of course making our horse salves, because we've already tried it and gotten rid of some melanoma, which is I can't believe how popular it is on these white and gray horses. So we're talking about horses, and now we're talking about horses' skin. How does like a horse skin compare to like a dog skin?
So horse skin, if you've ever seen a horse up close and you're not super familiar, they kind of have this neat adaptation that they can actually move their skin or wiggle
Right.
it.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
cool. Like when
yeah,
a fly to get the flies off and stuff.
exactly. So it's a little different looking, but they can move basically, the skin up over their top line on their side. It's a little bit thicker, and rightly so. They're going to be coming in contact with the weather, insects, impaling themselves on, picker bushes, what. And even certain horses, depending on where they're from in the country, they might have a more of a sensitivity to things here in the US. Like, for going off on tangent real quick, Icelandic horses, a lot of them are being brought here to the United States. Their skin isn't used to gnats. So a lot of these guys have hypersensitivities.
Wow.
But yeah, we see a lot of skin conditions in horses, particularly what you were saying, the gray and the white ones.
Right. And have you been able to use CBD topically on any of the issues?
I was treating a POA pony, who she had basically a long period of dealing with squamous cell carcinomas, which are really common
Very common.
yeah, especially Florida. And oddly enough, this horse lived in Florida for a while, was able to get some help from the Chi Institute, and then she had moved up here, but started right around her eye and her conjunctiva. And so there will be like a little growth of tissue was taken off. But it got to the point now she was in her mid-20s and they just were popping up all over. Mom wasn't looking to, heroics to treat everything, but keeping her comfortable in her face. That was the big thing. So we started using topical, and that just soothed everything. It got the inflammation down, shrunk it down. I was using some Chinese herbals too, because it was, unfortunately, was in her sinuses as well. And basically this everything like sloughed off around the face and the eye, shrunk down. And then with the herb,
What was a horse owner like?
definitely I was getting the text messages like, is this okay?
Right.
Is the eye like
Which is
falling
what people
off?
need to understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not pretty when these things die and come off. So, it is not better. It may be better because you don't have to see it, but it's not better to just go get it cut off. You're
No.
not getting rid of it.
Yeah.
But when it dies, it's going away and it's ugly. So be strong. But
Mhm.
yeah, I those text messages make me laugh.
Yeah, she was blowing chunk. It sounds disgusting, but she was
Mhm.
literally blowing chunk of tissue out of her nose because herbs internally. At the time, we were just using stuff really topically, but it was just eating away at the mass. And so much she was upset, and the more attending vet scoped the horse again, and they're like, no, the mass isn't in here. It was just all coming out of her nose. She was a happy camper, eating, drinking,
Yeah.
running
That's
around.
what I always say. I'm like, they're not
Yep.
feeling any pain. It's not hurting them. That is the tumor dying and leaving the body.
Yep.
Oh, it's awesome. I only get to see pictures of tumors and people, showing me the pictures, and I'm amazed. I can't
Yeah.
imagine getting to witness something like that. Were you amazed, or were you like,
Yeah.
I'm always amazed, and then I'm like, yeah, that's what it does.
Yeah. 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 And a lot of times it's those cases that I kick myself. I'm like, I should have took more photos.
Oh, that's
It's
me
never
always.
like,
Always should have
but
taken more pictures, should have taken more videos,
yep.
should have shown it. And then when you do, now you're like, I need as many people as this, possible. And then of course you go to share it on Facebook, and they put the little, this is graphic
Yeah.
image or
Yep.
whatever on there.
Yep.
but it is remarkable. Have you had any other great successes like that using
Definitely like some of the smaller little mass type things popping up where we're not sure what it is. The horse might be older. We just don't want to biopsy it, and just having them apply it. I have found that it will hone in other horses in the herd and they'll start licking at it.
which is
So I
fine
have,
because it's all
which is
natural.
fine. I've had that, and then so the owners are like, "It wasn't on that area," and so I said, well, you might just have to somehow cover that area, maybe, if it's on the shoulder, we call them slinky.
Don't they love peppermint, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so our remedy salve has the peppermint in it. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good idea to cover it up to keep
Yep,
others from
cover
licking
it
it
up.
off.
But I use it on insect bites, little cuts, just things, granulation tissue. I've used it on burns. Um, horses are really rough on each other out in the field.
Oh, I
They're
know
like,
the bites and the fighting and
yeah,
that's crazy. So that's
yeah,
why I love a topical that you can literally clean out the wound, slap this on, and by the next day it's halfway done healing itself. I
mhm.
love that. And now you said that you've also tried been using it on goats.
Yep.
What kind of successes have
Yeah.
you had with
So I had a little goat that was living, it was actually belonged to the POA family, the Pony of America's family. And they had this little goat that was in a pen, and it had tetanus at one point in its life. So a lot of times when goats get tetanus, if they're treated, pretty much all their joints are just destroyed.
right?
So it walked around like the Tin Man, very stiff. And so we gave it, and the owner the next morning came out, and the little goat was on top of the doghouse like Snoopy. And once again, I get a text message. The goat is on top of the doghouse. Is it? And of course, the question is my goat high? And I'm like, no, the goat just feels better.
This feels good. High
Yeah.
on life.
Yep. Yep.
That's what
So,
happens when you take away their pain. They get very happy and feel good and do the things that they want to do
yep.
or that they're supposed to do or that they used to do when they were younger because they're not feeling the pain anymore.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we are at the end of our time again. So that just means you have to come on for a third time.
Hey.
And we'll just talk goats the whole time.
Yeah. There we go.
Um, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. Now you're doing telehealth. Are they able, if someone's got a
Hey.
horse and they want to talk to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I do telehealth.
Wonderful.
I have my website is called Enabled Integrative Veterinarian Services.
Awesome.
So I have my website. I'm also on Facebook, so you can contact me. All my contact information's through there. Um, so I'm practicing in the Pennsylvania area. I do plan on spreading my wings and
Yay.
starting to travel the country for treatment. So
Awesome. And Florida's going to be the first place you come.
sure, sure.
Yay. You spend your winters here.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we want to grow hemp with the Amish farmers up there. So then we'll go there for the summer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Hop,
All
hop
right,
on up.
Sarah. It's so nice seeing you again. Thank you
Yeah.
for spending the time and sharing everything you know about hemp and horses. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good afternoon. Bye.